Welcome to another episode of Sports and Songs Podcast. We're on season 6, episode number 35. Tonight's the sports edition. I got a special guest, Jamie Houselog, joining us on the show. He's the secretary of the Federal League in Minnesota 35 plus. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Well, we want to promote the Federal League. It's a 35 plus baseball league in the state of Minnesota. The Federal League, organized in 1986. Here's the official logo that they got kicked off way back when. Now, it wasn't the first league, Jamie. You know, the Minnesota Senior Men's Baseball Association started down in, I think, Jordan, and they had 4 teams: Jordan, Savage, Prior Lake, and Bloomington back in 1979. And their first season was 1980. That organization is still going, but has lost a lot of teams. The founder, Dwayne Galkey, just died this last year. Longtime supporter of pioneer in amateur baseball. But the Federal League came around in 86 and has done well over the years, but it's the last few years that it's really taken it up a notch. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, I mean, this is my 9th season in the league, and just, obviously we're getting older, but definitely the pitching and the defense have ramped up. Everybody can still hit, right? But
yes.
We're seeing a lot of talent coming in the pitching ranks. So I would say it's definitely very competitive league now, and we're seeing that across all teams. So.
Yeah, I think that for many years, it was the over 35 guys that would join coming out of competitive, underhand softball, slow pitch softball, other sports, but typically not coming from amateur baseball. Very little came over from town ball, players from town ball. They shied away from coming into this old man's league. And what we're seeing now is more people adapting and coming into it and liking it. And so the talent level has really jumped up because most of the teams now are made up of former town ball guys and guys that can pitch, play defense, hit the ball. The competition has really gotten up there. It's fun to watch. Any thoughts on that?
I think we've kind of lost the stigma. I think in the past, you really wouldn't see many 35 to 40-year-olds unless they were coming back. I mean, when I came in, I was 37, but I'd been out of baseball since I was 28. So you would see those guys who had like almost a decade gap come back, but you wouldn't necessarily see guys transition or pull double duty between town ball and the Federal League, which we're starting to see more and more of. But we're still seeing those good stories where we have, I have a guy who's come back from like 2 decades off, and it's just, we still have those special stories to where they're coming back after a decade or 2 off. They still have the talent. You can see it when they show up for that first batting practice, but definitely seeing a strong mix of talent, both guys who haven't been playing ball for a while, and then guys who have continuously played ball for decades. So we're seeing a good mix, and that just adds to the talent level.
It's fun. The website here, speaking of the website, there's a new conversion to the new website. I think it was last year or this year, jumping over with the new updated format. When did that take over, and how's that going? I follow the league. I no longer play in the Federal League, but I follow, and the website's one of the things I like to go to, because between that and social media, it's very easy to find the Federal League. In the past, there was very tough to find anything on these senior men's leagues. Now there's a big presence with an up-to-speed website. The social media is super fun to follow on Twitter, X, Facebook. Teams have pages now. It's very easy to get at. What are your thoughts on the social media or the availability of finding these leagues and teams?
Well, I think a big credit goes out to Lars Larson on our board. He came over from the TCMABL and had run their website for years, and now has taken over our website. And there were a lot of limitations on the website that we used in the past. we transitioned to a new one this year, and it's a little more friendly around publishing, I think. We still are working out a lot of the kinks around stats. Stats aren't necessarily accurate as far as ERA and things like that, but the guts are there to where we're looking at refining those stats and making sure that they're accurate.
Yeah, most of the stats too. If you go, there's a button to click to even go on the archive and check out previous years, career stats, things like that go way back. Not all the way back, but I think it's 2010 or 2000 or something that those stats go back to. And it's been interesting to see some of those things. But yes, for a senior men's league, this is a lot of the schedules are up there, the updates, the standings are nice, clean, easy to read. I think Lars really helped a lot by when he came over and started the social media side of things, because we really saw a jump in the number of followers, the online, the social media, the Twitter accounts is very, very good. Very it's fun to follow all these things. Now, how many teams are in the Federal League?
I believe we're at 34 this year.
And so 35 and older baseball, for those not familiar, it's 7-inning games, but everything else is the same. It's a 7-inning full baseball game played on regular. Most of these fields are town ball fields, which is in the state of Minnesota, some of the best ballparks you're going to get to play on. So that's also fun. There's an ump at every game or two, right? And so these are all official games. There's no admission, for the fans to come. It's free to watch Federal League baseball at all the fields. Correct.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, there might be some admission at places that piggyback off a town ball. I'm not sure, but for the most part, free of charge.
Yeah, it's fun environment to come and watch a game. So there's 34 teams roughly around the nation. This is gathering more steam, right? There's gathering more steam. It started here. The birthplace of senior men's baseball is right here in Minnesota, and it's always been the leader for over 35. Other states are getting up there. Minnesota has been doing this for so long. Other states are trying to do this, and with varied success, but Minnesota is the place. And you've got that on the website. It does say it's the number one over 35 baseball men's league or baseball league in the nation. And I think that's fair to say. I think it's fair. I don't know if there's any way to statistically prove that, Jamie, but Minnesota's always been where it's at. And the Federal League, especially with all these teams and things coming in, it's very competitive. It's got to be one of the best that I've seen.
Well, I think there are a few factors that help us out. I mean, just a strong town ball culture, that's something that you really don't see in other states. And then I think that progresses over to the Federal League. I think the Federal League, when you look at it, it's a little more about participation, getting the older guys out and playing and getting on the diamond again, as well as playing good competitive baseball, smart baseball. When you see a lot of these teams that will go down to Florida and Arizona, they're very competitive. I think one couple of years ago, we had 3 of the top 4 teams at Roy Hobbs for 35 plus. So, and that was a mix of town ball and Federal League talent. So when you look at talented baseball players, our state definitely has them.
What's the biggest change from jumping over from town ball for playing? I know I've got my own answer for this, Jamie, but what you see in town ball, because it's age basically 18 or 17 or even age 16 on up to the mid-20s, mid-30s, but it's a lot of fireball, fastball pitching and guys that can just smoke the ball to hit. And now you get to senior baseball and the arms may not be there. You can't do all the things as a pitcher you once were able to do. Some that I've talked to, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, say it's a tougher thing to adapt to when you see the number of curveball, sliders, and changeups and different pitches coming at you that you don't see typically all the time. It's that's the biggest difference because the pitching is actually, I wouldn't say tougher, but people are pitching the ball versus throwing the ball. These are veteran pitchers who know what they're doing up there. And what's your thoughts on the change, adapting over to the
Yeah,
difference of the
so
change?
on the pitching side, you're definitely seeing a lot more off speed. And I know personally, I saw a sequence where I saw 4 or 5 breaking pitches in a row, and you just don't see that in town ball. Um, and that's just unique. I think you on the other end of the coin, you see a lot more patient hitters as well. Guys who aren't necessarily going to get up there and swing at the first strike they see. They want to see their strike and drive it. So I think it's both ends of the coin to where you see disciplined hitters and a lot more junk, a lot of weird stuff out there from the pitchers.
Yes, I can agree with that. It's a different ball game. Still the same baseball, but it's adjusting, it's adapting. And other than the website, the online presence, how many new teams now are recently joining, and how are they coming in? Are they coming in from the Twin City, TC Mabel? Are they coming over from the senior men's, the old Gulky League, or are they coming in as brand new teams? Do you see?
I think we've seen a mix within the past 5 years of all the above. So this past year, we didn't add any teams. I think last year we had either 35 or 36 teams at the beginning, and so we didn't add any this year. But in the past years, we've added quite a few from the senior men's league, the old Gulky League. And then I think the Voyageurs were the only ones who came over from the Sunday League. And then as far as new teams go, I think the Loons were like 3 or 4 years ago. So we've seen a mix. Most of them are from that senior men's league, and it really came kind of out of the competitions that they used to have around the World Series. And I think once that started to die down, I mean, when you look at it, they're two very different leagues as kind of from schedule wise. We in the Federal League require 18 regular season games, and there's really no exception around that. Everybody plays 18. And when you're looking at the senior men's league, it's more of a mixed bag, depending on what part of the state you play in.
Yeah, you see more of the schedules in that group, 12 to 15 games, something around that
Yep.
for their full regular season, and that helps with young dads with kids or family events or kids with sports and stuff. You can make those. This is a little more difficult with an 18 game schedule plus the postseason and the playoffs. It's a more you're locked in. It's a more of a commitment, and these teams are holding practices and batting cages and whatnot before the season as well. So that's some fun stuff. Speaking of the World Series, do they do that anymore? Tell the listeners what that is. The World Series for state of Minnesota.
So it no longer exists, but I think the last one was 2 or 3 years ago. It was between the senior men's league and the Federal League. I think with all pretty much most of those teams that participated in it have moved to the Federal League. So that's no more, but there still are strong teams in the senior men's league. I know Mankato had come up for a spring tournament up in Maple Grove and went 2-0 in that. So that's a strong team. I know Luxembourg has a strong team, Becker and Alexandria. So there are still very strong teams in that league, but I think it's more of it seems like there's more of a commitment that we ask of the Federal League, and for some reason they're not playing as many games, and it might be different factors around. I know a lot of those folks still play town ball even if they're 40, 45, 50 outstate, so that could be a factor. I've played with quite a few older guys outstate, and that's probably an influencing factor on that.
Yeah, I know for 10 years or so before it started, there was all this clamoring back and forth to try to get a World Series with these two leagues. The one league would be done and play their state tournament, and they'd have a champion crowned. The other team league would be done and have a champion crowned. And there's all this talk about how about the two face off and have a World Series, if you will, to see who's the best. And finally, that came to fruition and kind of panned out. Tried it for 3 or 4 years, but I'm at least glad they gave it a shot, because a lot of people were wanting, that was on a wish list for so long. Finally did it. It was successful to some extent. It didn't work, so it's been shoved aside. But at least we could say that it was tried. At least we could say it was tried. So there's no more World Series anymore. So the season ends after 18 games. That's a minimum. Teams can feel free to play, 28 games if they want, right? And then you have the postseason, which is broken down into brackets, and it's nice because you basically, when the season's over, Jamie, the teams are basically sorted in descending order by the number of their win-loss or the winning percentage, and the top, is it 8 teams go to the top, or is it? I think it's 8-8-8.
So that's changed this year. So
yes, okay,
we've expanded the AAA to 10.
Nice.
And that was a request that we heard from like league wide. Let's get more teams there, and it naturally made sense because those are the teams that are going to be very deep in pitching. So there's a little more commitment as far as games if you're going through a 10-team losers bracket. So let's make those AAA teams pitch their butts off.
Okay.
Versus the B. So
it's AAA. The next grouping then is AA, and then it goes down to single A, and then everyone makes the state tournament. Essentially, plays at different locations. There's different sites that host it each year. A double elimination tournament. So you get some of that in, and that by the time that's done, that's mid-August, right?
Yep. So playoff brackets are played the first 2 weekends in August.
Okay.
And champions are crowned that second Sunday in August.
And the season starts when? Is it end of April, beginning of May? The season starts for most teams.
The exact dates on the website. It's I want to say mid-April, but it's a little later than the 15th. I can't. Gotcha. Maybe the 20th or something.
Okay, yeah, because the last couple of years they're starting sooner than some town ball teams haven't even started, and the over 35 is breaking ground on some of these teams early in mid-April, early on.
I don't know what it is about the calendar, but every time we look at it every summer, it seems I'm getting worse as far as timing goes. We had 4th of July very close to a weekend, so that kind of knocks out a weekend there.
Yeah, and other than Memorial Weekend, there's a weekend that's essentially lost, or 4th of July, but the rest there's not much going on, and most players can make all the games or most of the games, or depending on their commitment. When it gets to the postseason, when you get to the playoffs, which is the state tournament, what's the eligibility there for the players to qualify?
So they need to make 6 games, and it used to be that you just had to show up. You didn't even have to be in uniform back when we started, right? Now it's a different requirement. It's actually stricter than town ball. You have to either get a plate appearance or pitch a full inning. So pretty strict.
In all those games, in all 6, or just one of the 6?
All 6.
All 6. So the plate appearance, to get up there, at least get one plate appearance. You got to be in uniform, of course. So no more just showing up. And sometimes in the past, it was guys with an ankle injury or something. You'd show up to the game. You wanted to be ready for the postseason. You'd show up and get that qualified as a game. Now it's a plate appearance, and so that'll lock in your roster. And I think that's July. Is it like a July 31st date or something, or just when the season ends?
We do. So rosters have to be determined. June 30th was the deadline for rosters.
Okay, so those are locked in.
Well, you have to have all your guys then, and then as far as qualifying, that goes all the way through the end of regular season.
So 6 or an inning. Okay, so that'll get them in.
There are exceptions to that.
Sure.
Around injuries, if somebody has a knee injury or something and is coming back from that, or if they have military service and they miss a month, there's always exceptions to it. But typically, those players need to be playing in years prior and qualifying. So.
Gotcha. And that's mainly for the ringers. You don't want to have a stud from town ball come in and join the team with one game and then, make a run through the tournament. So that makes it honest to get those guys at the games and whatnot. So now here is a listing here of the officers here on the board. So Dan Tupper is running the show. He's the commissioner for the Federal League. We've got C.T. Harris as the treasurer, Jamie Houselog here as secretary, and then Lars Larson, communications. Hats off to those, a lot of hours, volunteer time that the board puts up. There's also a president of each of the sections. So because there's 34 teams, now you've got, Chris Kalina running the North teams as the president. Paul Jess in the South. Wade Peterson is the East president, and Josh Stoll on the West. How has that been working out where you assign basically the breakdown of the divisions of the brackets? Sorry, the locations, as I should say. So you've got a point person for each one of those 4. Does that make it easier then?
Yeah, I think splitting it up amongst the divisions, you get a take from all those divisions. Every division's represented and gets kind of a person to give feedback to how we run this league. So I think that's a very effective strategy, just eliciting all the feedback and making sure that if they have compliments or complaints, they can talk to somebody about it.
Nice. Well, one of the personal favorites I like is watching when the preseason, because there's a podcast now in the Federal. What's that? Talk to me about the podcast, and also the Federal League Review, the USA Today paper. How is that done, and how has that come up with for that heading of that? It's not a sports newspaper; it's just a heading. And who puts that together? That's one of my favorites.
So Lars puts that together. I think he just has a ton of fun doing it. So he's been doing that for a while. I think he even did it in TCMA BL. So that's all Lars doing that. And then Josh does the podcast with Chris Miner. Production quality is crazy so I was on the first episode and it was just like me and Josh drinking beers and now Chris Miner stepped in and taken it up a notch with all these graphics and it's quite a show and like I don't even know if there's anything comparable in town ball as far as production value.
Yeah, it is good stuff, and whether it's Facebook and Twitter and X, there's a lot out there. It's a lot of fun following these teams, and even there's some teams that do even the live streaming. You'll scroll down on the Twitter and you'll see there's a game going on right now. Click on it, you can see the live stream of the game of someone's phone recording the game. But between the statistics and the standings and the tournaments and the graphics, whatnot, it is a fun deal to take part to watch as a fan. I played over 13 years with the Chaska Diamonds, and we had a good time. It was fun, but it was never the quality of this that we're seeing now with the production. It was always one of the biggest complaints, going way back to back when we first started playing and everything, was you didn't know the schedule. You had a schedule a coach gave to you, but it may have changed. The other team may have made a change, but didn't let you know. The ump may not have gotten the schedule, so the ump doesn't show up, and various things like that. Now there's family and friends coming to the games, the wives, girlfriends, the kids. it's a much more active scene. Very easy to forward the schedule out to others to come to the ballpark. And
yeah, I think it's technology is the biggest driver there. Like we started with the website, right? So everybody could see schedules and stats, things like that. But things like Game Changer and various streaming options like that has made things take off to where you do have friends and family checking in, and they're like in the chat rooms and things like that, to where I mean, you just didn't see that level of interaction other than at the ballpark. So
that's
if,
true. That's true. Now,
if grandma has a complaint, she can put it in the chat room now.
yes, it's a blast seeing all that take place, because it is fun. The quality of the players is it's just amazing. What you're seeing out there, the product on the field. And so when the tournament ends, the state tournament, like I said, it's early to mid-August. It wraps up at the second Sunday in August, essentially. That gives the players a couple weeks off, before the new school and the kids or whatever get back into school. Town ball's just wrapping up then as well, the state tournament. So you're not missing. There's no overlap with the state tournament to watch the town ball guys play. So it's the timing is very good. Now the offshoots of this, the Federal League and 35 over plus nationwide, you see much more teams going down to Arizona in a tournament, many more teams heading down to Florida, to the Roy Hobbs, and a lot of that subsequent baseball still going on late fall. There's even the Twin Cities Metro Amateur Fall League. You got the Fall Amateur Baseball League that kicks in right after Labor Day weekend to get you through to those fall tournaments and whatnot. So it's a lot of baseball. It's a lot of fun. A lot of opportunities for guys to jump in. Not even limiting to over 35 anymore, but Minnesota is such a hotbed. There's over 30 teams in the over 50 plus league. There's a handful of teams in the over 60, and I don't think there's another state in the nation that has an over 60 baseball league like Minnesota does. And so there's some traction there, big traction in the over 50. Over 35 is huge. So once again, hats off to the Minnesota State ball players and fans for making it all happen, because it's a lot of volunteer work and time that players and officers on the board like yourself to put in to keep this league running and whatnot. Lars, another big shout out to Lars Larson for what he's done, and Josh and the rest of the guys doing the podcast and everything else. It makes it fun.
Yeah, and I think the nutty thing is, like you said, there's so many levels, and like you can play year round if you really want to. Which is nuts.
You can. There's a lot more, which is indoor. There's a lot of indoor things, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's fun. It's fun to follow. It's fun to watch. We cover here on our show on the Sports and Songs podcast. We cover a lot of town ball. Next level down is a lot of Federal League stuff. We'll cover sports happenings and things going on in the various leagues in the 50s plus Hobbs, Arizona. We cover a lot of this amateur baseball, which is a huge thing here in the state of Minnesota. So hats off for everything that you've done. Jamie, thanks again for all your time and everything, and thanks for joining me on the show. Is there anything else you could think of that we haven't touched on here tonight?
The Hickory.
Let's talk about that. I for one have never played it, Jamie, but there's guys who go that are addicts. You go once and you just can't say no after that, right?
So that's how I got back in. Rhino was tweeting from Town Ball Tuesday's account, and I was following it because at the time, all the town teams that I had played for made the state tournament. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to these games. I'm gonna check things out. And then all of a sudden, Rhino's like, "Oh, I need pitchers and catchers to report to St. Michael." And I just kind of look over at my wife, and I'm like, "They need catching help up in St. Michael," and I hadn't played in 9 years, and she's like, "Yeah, it's okay." So I get to blame her every time that
Exactly.
that she complains if I have too many games in a week. So,
But that's always what, the first 2 weekends in September?
yep, first 2 weekends in September, and that's changed quite a bit as well. A lot like the Federal League, it's starting to ramp up in competition. We've seen some town ball guys show up to compete against Mr. Brower, and just insane level of baseball to where you're like, man, we aren't charging admission for this. This is very competitive. Very similar to what you'd see down in like a Florida setting. So like just fun baseball. And they always have a great atmosphere up in St. Michael.
Yeah, so they've been hosting it for so many years. It's the first 2 weekends up in St. Michael, Minnesota, amateur baseball at any age. Is that a 35 plus tournament?
Yep. So Ron Catone, that's Ron Catone's tournament that he had always run, and so it was a 34 plus. So if you planned on playing in the Federal League the next year, you had always qualified. So
okay,
that was Ron's rule back then.
Did that start off as an aluminum bat tournament? Or did it always stay
wood? From what I recall, yeah.
So we need to clarify too for the listeners, Jamie. The Federal League is all wood. There is no aluminum bats. It converted over many years ago. It started off as an aluminum bat league. It converted over. Hickory started always as a wood bat tournament, and so now all the other leagues, whether it's Arizona, the Fall League, 35 plus, Florida, the Hickory, everything's now just straight up wood. So if you're wondering about that and considering joining it and playing some baseball, I don't think there's any aluminum bat leagues left to play in anymore as an adult, correct?
There might be a Latin League out there still that
Sunday
uses metal, yeah, but yeah, it's really hard to find, and I'm kind of glad they're all wood, because like with how hot bats were back in the day, and like I just remember playing on a skin infield in Monticello, playing third base with metal bats. I was like, this is insane. Yeah, I don't think metal has any place in adult baseball.
Especially D1, your College World Series is what you're getting at, right? Yep, that's fair enough.
It should be wood.
Yeah, all the colleges, the D1, D2, D3, it's all still aluminum. After that, the minor leagues, it's all wood. Independent leagues, it's all wood. Northwoods leagues, pros, everything's all wood. So it would be nice, but it is nice if you have a nice collection of baseball wood bats. Feel free to join any one of these leagues, because there's no aluminum left, so you can carry them around in your bag. You're good to go to sign up and join. Once again, Federal League 35 plus baseball. I do believe it's the best, most competitive in the nation, is this league called the Federal League here. Started 1986. Here we go, the logo. Well, thanks, Jamie, for joining me. This is good stuff. 1986. Yes. Been around for a while. So feel free to reach out, do a search, do a Google search, look some things up. You'll find it just putting men's senior amateur baseball or town ball, not even town ball, but amateur or senior men's baseball. You'll find a ton of stuff out there all across the various different states and whatnot that are doing it. Minnesota has always been the leader. So once again, we're the pioneer here, and it's fun stuff. But thanks for joining us on the show here. Federal League Baseball with Jamie Houselog. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
You bet. Have a good one.